A lot of people waiting for a rate cut, but computer says no and no rate cut.
It's not the best case scenario, but it's not the worst case scenario.
Well, they voted
Very
6-3 to keep the cash rate on hold. First home buyers increasingly relying on outside help. 75% now receive family assistance. And in 2010, just 6% got help, the average gift at 23%. So you think about this, from 6% of people getting help to 75% of people getting help, right? That's huge. There's a lot of people promoting, make sure you get a cash flow property, get a cash flow positive, all that sort of stuff. And I think that's really short-sighted and really stupid.
And spending money on investing is obviously a no-brainer.
Absolutely. We're live. Excellent. Hello and welcome. George Markoski coming to you live with Christina Markoski. So a lot of people waiting for a rate cut, but computer says no and no rate cut. They've left it at 3.85%, no change, right? I mean, borrowers, investors, families, everyone wanted the rate cut. They did. Didn't happen though. Didn't happen.
At least we didn't get a rate rise, but I would have preferred a rate cut. Leaving it the way it is, not too bad either way. That's the way I see it. It's not the best case scenario, but it's not the worst case scenario.
It was unexpected.
Agreed.
And what I want to do is show you why the RBA are wrong, which I've done many times in the past. But I'll tell you how they did their numbers and why their numbers are wrong. The reason they didn't do it is because they think there's inflation. And I'm going to show you it's not really happening the way they're saying it is. I'm going to go through some stats and show you that. But not only that, more importantly, what I'm going to do is show you the smart plays, what smart investors are doing now instead, what it means for you that the rates didn't go down, and why it's actually good news for investors. And I'll start with one. It's a bit of a respite. Like, the thing is, when rates started going down, that was the starting gun to the race, and people started piling in, started buying property. And what happens is, a lot of the market, it takes quite a few instances of positive news to get them back into the market. So they hear one rate drop, they start hearing good news on television, and slowly, bit by bit, people start becoming more positive about property. And it's not till they have overwhelming evidence over and over again until that happens, right? And this sort of rates not going down has sort of slowed down the market a little bit, which we want, because the fact of it is, it's going to be a hot market. I'm going to show you what's been happening recently and why it's been so hot and why the RBA have got it wrong, but why it's good news as well. So I'm going to share my screen, and that didn't really share the way I wanted it to, but I will share it again.
Like it was working, starting to work.
I'm going to just, I'm getting better at using a Mac. I moved to Mac during COVID, and I haven't been back. Some things are better, some things are worse. What can I say? Life is a trade-off.
It's only been 4.5 years.
Yeah, and I still haven't learned how to use it because I spent my whole life on a PC. I started my computer journey with a Commodore 64, and I convinced my parents to buy me one when I was 14.
Isn't that a car, Commodore?
Yeah, well, back in the day, it was called a Commodore 64 because it had 64 bytes of memory, which was really big at the time, because it was much better than the VIC-20, which was terrible. And you could imagine, I mean, 64 bytes of memory is nothing compared to, my watch has got more memory than that. Actually,
Wow.
I think birthday cards have got more memory than 64 bytes now. When you go and buy, a birthday card. The average, the iPhone's got more computing power than NASA had when they launched and went to the moon.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know. So that's how far we've gone. So State of the Nation, the shocking Reserve Bank rate pause. After 2 rate cuts in early 2025, almost everyone expected the Reserve Bank to go for a third in July. Even Domain jumped the gun with a now infamous post forecasting another rate. Domain actually posted that there was a rate drop. They already had their social media team ready for it, but there wasn't a drop. So when I saw that, and then I saw the Reserve Bank didn't drop it, I was thinking, what's going on here? But that's how much they were 100% certain it was going to happen.
Wow. I think we all were.
Well, they voted 6-3 to keep the cash rate on hold. And it's because inflation hadn't cooled enough and the economy was still running hot, thanks to public government spending and public sector job growth. The good news of all this is the economy is running hot, which is great. We like a good economy. The bad news is I don't think they calculated their calculations that well. And when the government spends, it's government spending, borrowing money to spend money. So it's not really the same economic activity as when small businesses and businesses in Australia make more money, which gives us a lot better return on our money, right? So if you look at this, right, the economy looks like it's growing, but only on paper. And this is what I want to address, right? When you adjust for population growth, we've actually had 5 straight quarters of economic decline per person. And this is what we need to be looking at. So on the surface, things look solid, but under the hood is a different story. So what the government does to make themselves look good, and Labor love doing this, is they get a lot of migrants in. And as you get migrants, the more people you have, there's more economy just happening. But GDP per capita has been going down. And GDP per capita is really the real test, because per capita means per person. Are we getting richer per person or just as a whole as a country? Because no point Australia having more economic output, but everyone getting poorer, right? Everyone should be getting richer. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
So it's not the way to calculate it.
How can they get away with doing that though?
Well, you can calculate things differently. And when you're calculating, well, there's 2 calculations. You can have GDP of a country, gross domestic product, or you can have GDP per capita, which is different. So if you look at this thing, you look at GDP, right? That's the blue line, right? It's been growing, but GDP per capita, as you can see, we've got -10, -1.6. It's been shrinking bit by bit. So if you look at this here, this other graph, jobs are coming not from businesses, but from government. That's what I was saying before. So since late 2023, non-market jobs, which is mainly taxpayer funded, have driven most of the employment growth. So is this really growth, right? When it's government jobs? It's not the kind of strength that gives the RBA confidence to cut rates again. That's the problem, right? So you look at this graph here, and you can see the non-market jobs have gone right up, which means what it is when you look at Labor and left-leaning governments, they like a big government and they want the government to employ everyone, right? Instead of creating an amazing economy where the market employs everyone, which is a lot more robust. Because, I mean, you look at the Soviet Union, they had 100% employment, but they went broke and the whole Soviet Union fell apart.
Wow.
So we're in burnout economics mode. The RBA has its foot on the brake, but government spending has the pedal to the floor, right? So at 23% of GDP, public spending is near record highs. This is adding fuel to inflation and complicating the path of more rate cuts.
Just had a question. Is non-market jobs government jobs?
Yes. Non-market jobs are government jobs. Market jobs are jobs coming from the market, which is from small business and big business. So, and you look, there's a certain amount of infrastructure we need to build. I get that. I understand that. But you look at this graph, right? Day-to-day government spending as a proportion of GDP. And you look at the proportion, 20%.
Pre-COVID average.
The average is around about 18.5%. But you look at now, it's gone right up. So it's like the RBA is stuck in the past. Inflation is nearly back in the target range, but faster data shows clear signs of disinflation, right? But the RBA hit pause anyway. So economists are warning the RBA has stopped forecasting, it's just reacting to lagging data. So they're not looking at leading indicators, they're looking at lagging indicators.
So they're not getting the full picture.
Well, when you're looking at lagging indicators, you're looking at the past. but you should be looking at leading indicators and looking at the future. You've got a balance there because we
You
can't
should be
predict
looking at both. Yeah.
You need both. You need a balance, yeah. And that means
Absolutely.
policy could be too slow to respond, or
Mhm.
worse, pushing when it should be pulling, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
See, I think what we should do, and this is just my humble opinion, is we need to get the brake off the pedal because the RBA put brakes on the economy for long enough as it is, and allow more market jobs to happen. Right? So how do first home buyers afford anything? That's the question. So national housing turnover rate is currently around 4.6%, down from a peak of 9.1% in 2001. So what's happening is people aren't selling their houses, right?
Well, yeah, it's tiny.
Not turning up. Yes, right down. So the thing is, first home buyers increasingly relying on outside help. 75% now receive family assistance. 15% of borrowers get an average of $92,000 from their parents. And in 2010, just 6% got help, the average gift at 23%, right? So you think about this, from 6% of people getting help to 75% of people getting help, right? That's huge. And I've been banging on about this, but this is important for everyone to know because, people watching this channel and that follow us, investing in property is not just about you. That's one thing you have to realize. It's more of a legacy thing. It's about you and your children and your children's children. And the people that get it right now, they're going to help generations to come. And the people that don't invest, how are their kids going to actually get a property? Now, look at this. The median age of first home buyers keeps rising. And at the
Yeah, I'm
same
not
time,
surprised
and at the
at all.
same time, few are entering the market without family or government help, right? So independent home ownership is shrinking and the Australian dream is dying. So you look at here, the average age back in 2000 was around 24, 25 of a first homeowner. Look at 2020 and we're looking at 36 years old. See, and this is the other thing. Everyone's pumping Aussie home prices. Gut incentives keep pouring in. The Product Commission has said these schemes often help sellers, not the buyers, right? But the federal and state governments continue to roll out new incentives. And you look at since the start of 2020, prices exploded across Queensland and Tasmania. So now regional areas, houses are now approaching a median house price of $700,000. Regional Queensland, where 5 years ago it was 380,000. Property prices in the last 5 years have gone up between 70 and 100% in 5 years. So property prices have already gone up since the last rate drop. So the recovery is well underway. Normally we talk about the average over the last 100 years, property prices average around 7 to 9% per year. So that means that it takes 7 to 10 years to double, up to 12 years. But you're looking here almost 100% growth in 5 years. That's less than half the time. Now, if you look at this picture here, and for the people, this is people at one of our events in Adelaide. This is several years ago. And you can see different coloured belts. And what I want to do is go through some member wins. And then after that, we're going to go through our private group. If there's any questions on Facebook.
This was only last year, George, this one.
Okay, there you go. Last year.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
I know because I remember my outfit.
Well, I don't remember my outfit. I'm wearing black and I wear black every day, so it doesn't matter. It's pretty easy.
Got a comment from Nick here, George. Until Australia grows up and stops relying on RBA settings to take pressure off, will continue to be a lockdown, slothful economy. GST needs to go up and rates need to be steady around 3%.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we were promised when GST came in was we're going to have GST, income tax is going to be abolished, stamp duty on property is going to be abolished, everything else like that. This is the thing. I'll tell you one thing about property. In Australia, it costs you around 30 to 40% in taxes and extras when you're buying a property. You're paying stamp duty, you're paying percentage for getting a loan, you're paying all this tax. Now, usually when governments want to incentivize something, they actually give you tax deductions to make it more incentives. Like when you're paying 30 or 40%, that usually happens on alcohol and cigarettes. But because property makes so much money, the government is sort of stuck on that cycle. They want to tax property as much as they can, but they also want to fix the housing crisis, but they also want property prices to go up so they can make more money out of you. So when you've got two competing forces, it makes it difficult. What I think they should do is they should double the depreciation allowance on brand new properties, because that's how we're going to fix the housing crisis. Buying secondhand properties doesn't fix the housing crisis because we need new ones built, right? And Labor lost 2 elections trying to get rid of depreciation. I think we should give more depreciation, and more depreciation will
more
actually
incentive.
give more incentive to fix the problem. Anyway, I was going to go through some member wins, and then I'll go through some Q&A, and then we'll go to a private group and do some breakout rooms and do a few things, okay?
Awesome. Cool.
Okay, Jessica from Victoria. She bought in Raceview. Property price was 482,000. Deposit 48 grand. Currently valued at 714,000. Profit of 231,000. That's a 479% return on her investment. Now she's an orange belt with 3 properties. Now I've noticed one thing. If you notice, Christina, is a lot more people have got bigger coloured belts now because
they're moving up.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
I remember 5 years ago, we'd go through this and we'd be going white belt, yellow belt, orange
Yellow,
belt.
orange, all the lower down. Yeah.
So
hey, you've got to start somewhere.
No, you look at Michael and Victoria from ACT. They bought one for $51,000 deposit, $694,000 current value. The current profit is $179,000, which is a 347% return. Now, they're a purple belt now, which means they've accumulated 7 properties, which is awesome.
And look, they've done it with 3 kids, so you've got no excuse.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, the fact of it is, you know, what I say to people, if you haven't done this already, you should make this your number 1 goal, to replace your income through property. And with 7 properties, they're well on their way, because you need around 10 properties to make, on average, around $250,000 return per year out of property. So they're getting close to that number.
And we've just heard from Coach Charmaine here that Michael is now looking to buy 2 more.
There you go. So, wow, he's going to be a black belt soon. Exciting. Nice work.
Black belt is on the horizon. Absolutely.
Stephen and Nicole from Victoria, they're blue belts now. They've got 5 properties. They bought a property for $515,000, $51,500 deposit. Current value $694,000, which means it's gone up $179,000, which means on the deposit they paid, they made 347.6% return on investment.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's great. And we've got Angela from New South Wales. And she bought one in Thornlands, $679. Now it's worth $837, $164,000 profit. She's an orange belt, which is 3 properties. We're going to start answering questions. And once I ask a few public questions, we're going in our private group and going in deep.
Nice.
Oh, Michael owns 3 restaurants in Canberra. Good on him. That's good. It's good to hear. He's in a good league. Look, the fact of it is, everyone's got their own league, and what we're going to do is do the best with what we've got. And the fact of it is, I was thinking about this today. I really remember clearly what it's like to be poor, right? And now I know what it's like to be wealthy, because sometimes people lose touch, right? And I was thinking to myself, have I lost touch? And I don't think I have, because I remember those feelings. And the fact of it is, you know, when you've got, I remember when I was living in Sydney and I was working, and I'd be working 6 days a week. I'd get 1 day off to do a bit of washing, tidy up. You couldn't even pay your bills back then. You had to do it during lunch break, because you just couldn't do it online. And the only letters I got were bills. because no one else knew I was there, right? Because I was living in this apartment, and no one was sending me. I wasn't getting any cards or any presents or any gifts or anything like that.
No
And
birthday cards.
no, and what would happen is every time I'd get the mail, I'd put it in the corner, hidden away in the kitchen because I didn't want to look at them. Because every time I looked at that pile of bills,
It's bad news, yeah.
I feel sick to the stomach because I knew it was going to be expensive. Because living in Sydney was very expensive. I was in my 20s.
Still
And
is very expensive.
yes, it is. But especially when you're in your 20s, it's expensive, right? And the thing is, because when you're in your 20s, you're starting up the career path, so you don't make as much, but you're spending a lot anyway, right? And then by the end of the month, the pile will be big. And then the pressure of, I have to open these and look at them and pay them, because if I don't pay them on time, then it gets worse, right? The bad news is you don't pay them on time, then penalties and everything else like that, and it gets even worse. So then I'd have one day where I had to grit it out and open them and pay them. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'd love to be in a position where it wouldn't bother me at all. And it one little bit getting a bill. Because how good would that be? Where you don't give a shit, it doesn't matter, right? Because you just got enough money, you've got enough security, where it doesn't matter. And how does that feel? It feels very different, because if I get a bill now, it doesn't matter at all, one little bit. It's just a bill. And I remember you and we actually caught Jetstar this time.
I was just thinking of that.
Yes, can I tell the story? Can I tell the story?
Okay.
A personal story. Because what happened was, I was thinking, there's no business flight from Adelaide to Bali. So we ended up going via Melbourne once. It's a lot of mucking around. And then it wasn't a lie-back seat. So then we booked the flight from Bali to Sydney to Adelaide, and took us all night and half the next day to get here. And
It's like 1.5 days.
it was ridiculous. And it cost a fortune. And it was ridiculous, right? And basically we thought, you know what? We're better off, because there's no even Jetstar.
Saving the time.
The time is more important. We'll just get an exit row and do it. Now, I'm used to being platinum, walking straight up the front, getting VIP service, right? and and everything else like that. So it's a little bit different when you've got to wait in line with everyone else and everything else like that. But we ended up going in, and I've got 2 suitcases, and I've got hardly any luggage at all, but I'm way over. And normally I do a lot more, right? Normally I'm just piling on the suitcases, and right. So we rock up, and then they're like, you're going to have to pay excess. I go, doesn't matter. We'll pay excess. And they're like, it's like $30 a kilo. You got 10 kilos. That'll be $300.
No, it was
that's
actually
fine.
400.
Okay, $400 for 10 kilos, right? Anyway, and she goes, oh, you can carry on board. And I'm like, well, I've already got a backpack, and who can be bothered, right? Anyway, I get my phone out, because I don't have a credit card, physical one anymore. I just use my phone and tap. So I couldn't. Luckily, Christina, you've got a credit card, so you paid for it. But I remember when I was younger, if I got a $400 excess, I'd be freaking out, and I'd be unpacking suitcases and repacking and getting it right. One thing I don't get is, you're getting on a plane, and they're like, you got too much luggage. So they grab the extra luggage and they put it underneath the plane. Same plane though. Like, it's crazy, right? Because I remember when I was younger, I was living in Sydney, and I had to get a cab. And cabs were expensive back in those days. And this cab driver, I was moving house or doing something, and the cab driver, the meter's on. I'm trying to get all my stuff as fast as I can. I'm in the car. I'm going to this other suburb, and I can see the meter just ticking away. And I see $50, $60, $70. I'm like, oh my God, am I ever going to financially recover from this cab ride, right? So it's funny how things change. Someone said, George, what has been the biggest turning point for you in real estate development? Okay, I'd like you to clarify that, because are you talking about developing properties or in real estate development? I'm not sure.
Hey, George. No,
Yep.
in developing your portfolio, what's been the biggest turning point for you?
Oh, the biggest turning point, I can tell you that easily, right? When I started, I didn't know how to do research, and There was no realestate.com or anything online, so you had to get a paper to look for things. So it was very hard to get data. So without data, it's very hard to make a decision. And there wasn't a lot of education about real estate either when I first started. It was difficult. And so I was going in blind and I didn't know how to structure things. So after I bought a few properties, I was literally broke every week because each property was costing like $300 a week. And this is back in the 90s when $300 a week was a lot of money, right? So it's not like now where $300 is not as much. So I was literally 3 properties, $1,000 negative a week, working super hard just to cover my bills. And I was like, this sucks, because you hear all these stories, and I read Robert Kiyosaki and all this stuff about getting property and being wealthy. But I had property and I was the poorest out of my friends. My friends were out partying, having fun, spending money, and I couldn't do it. Not only didn't I have the money to go out and have fun, I didn't have the time because I was working too much. So I went on a bit of a journey and learned about depreciation and learned about how to structure the loan. And that was the turning point. The turning point was when I got my negative properties and turned them positive. Step 1. Step 2, when I learned about the top 100 and how to get the top 100 and find properties that double every 7 or 10 years. That was the second big thing. But the biggest thing was the cash flow. Because if you got no cash flow, you can only get 1 or 2 properties, then you're finished. Because you can only get as much properties that you can afford. So number 1 thing is getting that cash flow. Number 2 is getting properties that are going to double. And I was lucky. I got high quality properties from the beginning that went well anyway. And look, you can get a property, and if you wait long enough, it's going to go up anyway, right? But with the top 100, you're just getting a lot faster. Because you look at some of our clients' results, making hundreds of thousands of dollars off a property and not having it very long. That's all top 100, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Well, when you look at all those case studies and testimonials you went through earlier, George, and you look at the time, they only got their properties in 2023. It's only been like a year and a half.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
made those results in.
Yeah, exactly.
So they've made that money very quickly as well.
Look, I mean, every time we have property settle, there's equity there.
Yeah.
And having instant equity, that's rare. Very rare, right? There's people that bought property 10 years ago in Melbourne and they have made no money. I've met some of them. Not with us, obviously. Just clarifying that. Not with us. But that's what I'm saying. So the thing is, getting the right property is going to double every 7 or 10 years is important. But getting that cash flow, the doubling, you make your money out of capital growth. A lot of people confuse that. A lot of people chase cash flow. There's a lot of people promoting, make sure you get a cash flow property, get a cash flow positive, all that sort of stuff. And I think that's really short-sighted and really stupid. I'll tell you why. They're cash flow for a reason. Everything's a trade-off. If you get a property that's good cash flow, it's not going to be good capital growth. That's just the way it is, right? And so you need to trade off. Like, what do you want? Capital growth or cash flow? Well, you want capital growth because capital growth gives you cash flow. So if I get 2 properties and one's really high cash flow, but one's negative, but it's high capital growth, in 10 years, what do you think is going to give me more cash flow?
Capital growth.
Yes, because capital growth equals cash flow. Because what cash flow is a percentage of the property's value comes back in rent, right? And we normally chase 5.5%, 4.5% to 5.5%, because we know that percentage, that's sustainable. And if that property doubles, you're still going to get 4.5%, 5%.
Yeah.
Well, if that property doubles, your cash flow doubles. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Cool. Now we've got some questions here.
Let's go through the questions.
Facebook. So Gavin has said, next 12 months cash rate predictions.
Okay. I don't have a crystal ball. So I can't there's a lot of things that I cannot predict. That's the fact of it. But there's some things that I'm very certain of, right? So what I'm certain of is we're in a property super cycle, and properties are going to go up quite significantly and more than they ever have in the next 10 or 20 years, right? The next 10 years is going to be amazing. When and how much the cash rate drops is difficult because world events, you know, Trump just did his big, beautiful bill, and there's other things happening, and there was a little war of Iran. I don't know if you heard now the Epstein files. Apparently, there was no file. So what happened was they had this whole thing about the Epstein files. They're going to release all his files, and then recently they said, nope, actually, he died of suicide, and there was no file at all, completely. But funny enough, she had an interview saying she was looking at the files on her desk. So who knows? But there's a lot of stuff happening all the time. The fact of it is, I know one thing for a fact. When you buy well, you're going to do well.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a question from Kim. Can you clarify how our offset should look like? Is it an offset for every loan or one offset for all the loans? I assume it's for every loan where those property bills are taken from money comes in. I'm just settling on my first property.
Yep. Okay. So the offset account, the number one place to put an offset account is on your owner occupier, just for clarity. I'll tell you why. Your PPR, your principal place of residence, your owner occupier, we call that bad debt. It's bad debt because you don't get tax deductions and you don't get help. You have to do it all yourself. Because of that, that's the loan we want to keep as low as we can. Your investment properties are good debt. What I mean by good debt is the tenant and tax man help pay for it, and you get a tax deduction for it. So it's not that bad. You get a lot of help. So really, if you had you're going to get your offset account, you put it on your owner occupier. If you don't have an owner occupier, then you put it in your investment property. And then the other rules are a bit like this. If you've got two investment properties and one is a higher interest rate, then you put all your money in that one because you're getting more benefit. Right? So it's all a matter of working out where you get the most benefit. Because what I love about the offset account is it saves you a lot of interest, which is great. Also, it's money that you can use to buy another property. Also, I love it because it keeps you safe. Right? Having money in your offset account, a lot of money in your offset account is going to be your safety net. And that way, shit goes down, you're covered. When I retired, I put nearly 400,000 in an offset account because that way I had a safety net and I could relax and didn't have to worry about anything. Because I retired, I wasn't sure if I could get a loan again. Obviously, I learned that I can, which is great, and I'm not retired anymore anyway. But I thought having money in an offset account is going to keep me safe. And then if I need something desperately, like a convertible Porsche,
you've got the money there available, and you don't have to
beg
the bank for it.
Yeah, exactly. But also, I mean, I only believe, like, I don't believe in getting a loan to get a car. I don't believe in getting a loan unless you're using that car for work and producing income. That's slightly different because then it's an asset. But a car is a liability, right? And I pay for my cars in cash, always have. That's an old school way of thinking. Pay for my holidays in cash. I think you've got to prioritize. And when I look at money, spending money, I'm happy to spend money on education, on mentorship, making myself smarter, health. Because as you know how much money I spend on health. I bought my own hyperx oxygen chamber. I've got myself a little laser helmet. I'm going to do another one if everyone wants.
Sauna, gym.
If you heard my podcast recently with Kamal Ravikant, him and I are going to go do some gene therapy together in America, which is pretty cool. The good thing is I don't have to pay for that because we're investors in the company, which is good.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. Comes in
the
handy.
Angel investing?
Yeah, totally.
Great. That means I'm covered too. Woohoo.
That's right. Exactly. So, so there you go.
And spending money on investing is obviously a no-brainer.
Absolutely, totally. Spending money investing is no brainer. But also there's a difference between active money and passive money. You know, your active money, you want that to work really well, and you want to use a lot of that to invest. Your passive money, you can do what you like.
Thanks for explaining that, George. That was awesome.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Nice. And we've got a bit of a follow-up question on the offset account from Alyssa. I'm finding offset only applies to one home loan. Is that right?
No, you can have it multiple
And that's with
home
the
loans.
one bank?
You can have offsets on multiple home loans, definitely. And I have got them on multiple. Part of the reason is because sometimes I like to keep all my money in my offset account on my PPR, but I don't have a PPR anymore. So just on my biggest loan. And basically, because I've moved overseas, my principal place of residence is in Bali, and we're paying cash for that because we can't get a loan anyway. But I had it on a PPR here, and with the payments from different banks going out of the offset account, it wasn't all perfect. So I'd get a payment put in the offset early just to make sure I didn't miss any dates or timelines, because you don't want to be late with your payments.
Yep, that's very important. How would you define the endless equity? This is from Arif.
Yeah, okay. Endless equity is a word. It's a lovely word. And what it is, you know, you buy property, it goes up, and you keep getting more equity. So
Every year,
literally,
more and more.
so literally, equity is endless when you buy property in high growth areas, because it's always growing. It doesn't stop. You know, when we talk about this program, you get 10 properties in 10 years and you make this much money. It doesn't stop there. The year after, it keeps going up and it keeps going up. So that's what endless equity is.
So from Matthew, you showed the growth in Brisbane earlier. How much more growth do you see in Brisbane, and where do you see the next area in Australia for capital growth?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I look at the 16,000, there's 15,000 suburbs in Australia, between 15 and 16,000. I'll say 15,000 for more accuracy. You know, because I'm going to say 16,000 and someone will say, no, there's actually 15,942 of them. I don't know the exact number, and it changes, you know what I mean? Because some suburbs
Usually
disappear.
you round up with numbers, so
I'll round down to be conservative, right?
Right.
So 15,000. So out of those 15,000 suburbs, what I do is every quarter I rank them on a big Excel spreadsheet. And now I use AI to help rank them on 42 different factors, right? So market cycle timing, demand supply ratio, neighbor price balancing,
Vacancy rate,
auction clearance rates, average vendor discount, all those sort of things. Internet searches, so we look at how much people are searching in each area, right? How many owner occupiers, how many renters, has it changed? So there's a lot of things we look at. So what I do is look at all those numbers, and then from that, I've got a formula that gives me the top 100. And that top 100 slowly changes. So what happens is the ones in the top, they're moving down. The ones at the bottom, they've fallen off, and new ones come in and rise. And they come in from all different angles, but they get replaced. So what happens is a number of suburbs get replaced and some suburbs stay the same. And if they're still in the top 100, we keep investing. Once they've reached, because what we're doing, we're investing 7 o'clock in the market, right? All the way up to 10 o'clock, because there's still growth there.
Market cycle timing.
Yeah. And no, market cycle timing is different. I'm sorry. That's the property clock. Market cycle timing means how long since has it not gone up for, right? So market cycle timing helps you pick 7 o'clock. Yep. And neighbor price balancing is fascinating too, because it's a bit like what I'm looking at is, okay, you got apples and pears and bananas, 3 different suburbs. What I want to do is go, okay, how much per kilo are these apples, pears, bananas? And how do they compare to this 15,000 other pieces of fruit in Australia? Then I think to myself, okay, why have apples gone up this much? Are apples really that much better? Or are they overpriced? And that's what we look at. And we know that apples can't be that much better than pears, but they can be a little bit better. So because of that, what I look at is the traditional market and what it has been and where it is. So if you look at the last 20 years and you look at a suburb and do a line where it should be, and then you look at where it is now, is it above or below the line? If something's below the line of where it should be, that is exciting news. Because then I'm looking at going, wow, that's a bargain because it shouldn't be there. But there's two reasons why it's below the line where it is. One reason is because it's undervalued at the moment and people don't realize how good it is. There's another reason, something really bad's happened in that suburb and it's really shit. And we need to find that out.
You've got to figure out the difference, yeah.
Yes. So once you've got the top 100, then you've got to look at the news, the council, and what's been happening and work out other factors.
Government infrastructure spending,
yes, all that sort of stuff. You got to, the facts tell one thing, but then you've got to fill the story up with the reason why it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And
paint the dots.
You've got to paint the dots, right? Maybe there's been a lot of murders in some place and it's not good anymore, right? No, it's true. I mean,
we stay away from Snowtown.
There's some suburbs in Melbourne at the moment. There's a lot of machete wielding maniacs and home invasions. They're probably not that good. And the thing is, what happens is, let's say there's an area which has had some crime and it's got very bad neighbour price balancing, but it's improved and it's become gentrified. That's where a lot of opportunities are. Gentrification, like we've seen a lot of gentrification in Brisbane, a lot. And we've seen property prices in suburbs change completely. When there were really poor people living there and it was really bad, nothing against poor people, just what it was, who was lower socioeconomic. And we've seen it now, it's completely changed. And the suburbs gone up quite considerably. And because property prices have gone up, the council's spending more money, and so it's a whole gentrification process. And a lot of people don't like the word gentrification, but that's what happens. It's one of those things that happens.
Positive upswing for the whole suburb. So
yes, but it makes it unaffordable for some of the original people living there too.
Mm-hmm.
Because as property prices go up, rates go up, it's harder. It does. They've made a lot of money, but they can't still live there because they're too poor. There is some concerns about that as well.
I see. A question from Darren. Is there a difference between an offset and redraw? There
is a difference between an offset and a redraw. And it's got something to do with the tax implications. But I need a specialist to give me that answer. Right. I'm just very much an offset guy.
They're quite similar though. They do the same function.
They're very similar. They're very similar. I just got to, someone mentioned something about the tax implications on how it works, because that's the important part. The important part is when you use the money, how you use it, what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay, interesting. Aiming to have a decent deposit. This should help with a lower loan and will help the property to be cash flow positive. Yes? Question mark from Adam.
Yes. But if you've got a mortgage on your house, right, I would rather use equity, and I'd rather get that money and put an offset account on your house and keep the money, right? Using cash deposit is not the best way, because I'd rather save money on my mortgage at home, which is not a tax deduction, and get a bigger tax deduction. You'll make more money that way. Because people get caught up on the actual property they're buying, but you don't want to get caught up on that. You want to look at the big picture as a whole.
Well, it's OPM, isn't it?
Sorry? Other people's money.
OPM. Other people's money.
Absolutely.
Other people's money. But also, I can put 100,000 deposit on buying an investment property and it will be positive. But that doesn't help me because I'm not getting the tax deductions that I'd like to get. When I can actually get that 100 grand in my offset account on my principal place of residence, and then I save that money, and then I get 100% tax deduction on the whole loan on the investment property. See how that's a better deal?
Yes.
But it doesn't look the same to some people, and people think, oh, shit, that's
Yeah,
too
on
negative.
paper, one looks better, but once you dig a bit deeper,
Yeah, so people get confused sometimes and go, well, that doesn't look too good. It's negative $300 a week. Well, you can make it positive, but you've got to look at your whole situation and make your whole situation more positive. And by having that negative 300, but having 100,000 offset account at my principal price, I'm actually making more money. Because that negative 300, I get 30% of that back or more.
Lesson learned.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
Good one.
So
Awesome.
it's a numbers game, and it's really, this all comes down to one thing. And this is the thing that Robert Kiyosaki taught me. The wealthy, they look at numbers differently to the people that aren't wealthy, and they can see the story behind it. Where if you're not wealthy, it's very easy to get emotional about a negative number. I mean, I've seen people do this. They look at a property and it's like negative 300. They're like, oh no, I'm not buying this property. But they can afford it, but they can't afford it mentally. But the problem is they miss out on that property, and that property's gone up 100 grand. Now, $300 a week, that's $15,000. And you wanted to save yourself 10 grand a year to miss out on 100 grand that year.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
You've lost so much.
That's right. It's
Opportunity
actually
cost.
generating in the system, isn't it? Having that 100 grand sitting in your offset account, it's generating, not
Yeah.
actually putting it straight onto that loan, and you're getting that rental in. I can clearly see what needs doing.
Yeah, exactly. And see, we're not paying off our loan by 100 grand. We're keeping it in our offset account, because then we control it all. Because if we can use it to get another property on top of the other one, even better. Like, nothing wrong with that.
That's right. Thanks,
because-
George, for
No
clarifying
worries.
that. That's
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's excellent.
excellent.
Now, we have run out of time, but save your questions and please bring them along to next Thursday and pop them in the chat straight away, and then we'll do our best to answer those.
Well, guess what? We're going to stop the stream.
The live?
Okay, thank you everyone for watching. See you next Thursday. It's going to be a great show. Don't know what it's about yet. I should have got my team to tell me, but it's going to be good. I'll be here.